What time is it, Mr. Wolf? Well, we can't ask a wolf, but we can ask a snake, in particular our Python. So let's ask Python what time it is. Time. Dunno, says Python. I can't tell you the time. Well, that's odd because it's got the time right up here. So Python must be able to tell the time. Well, it can, but not using the ordinary instructions. We need some extra instructions. So we're going to import a library or a module of new commands. Just like when we did our turtle graphics, we imported the turtle. Here we're going to import the time instructions, the time commands. So let's import time. And just like when we did our turtle graphics, we gave the turtle a name. Here we're going to give the time a name. And we're going to call it, or I'm going to call mine, clock. You can call it anything. You could call it T for time. You could call it time. I'm going to call mine clock because we use clocks to measure time. So now that I've got my clock, I can ask it the time. And it tells me it is 1612103901.1231635. Now that's not a star date, that is the number of seconds that has elapsed since the beginning of time. Now the beginning of time, well, that's the beginning of time as Python counts it. So let's find out what this date actually is. Now we can use a command called ctime, and if we do ctime, it tells us the actual time and date. So you can see it's Sunday, January 31st, 2:38, 55 seconds of the year 2021. So that's the current time in a human readable form. And this is the time in seconds. But when was the beginning of time? One useful thing we could do with clock.ctime is inside the brackets that we've just done open and close, we can type in a number of seconds and it will output this string telling you what date and time that particular number of seconds is. So let's just get the seconds from here. Now I'm just going to grab the full seconds, not the fractions of a second, and I'm going to paste that in there, and you see it should tell me that we did that bit at 21 seconds. So 2:38 and 21 seconds, and then we did it again. So that's when we asked for the clock time, and that's when we asked for the current time just there. So if I could put any number of seconds in, if I do clock.ctime and put 0 seconds in there, it will tell me when time began. And time began on Thursday, January the 1st at midnight in 1970. So there we are, that's the beginning of time according to Python. Now there may have been times earlier than that, but I can't remember any. I certainly think you can't. But that's not to say it didn't happen, but that's just when they started to record time on Python. Now, why might we want to know the time on Python? Well, we might want to tell people what date it is. We might want to record what date something happened. Maybe if we're keeping a log, so we've written a program that tracks financial transactions, we might want to keep a log of when they were made. There might be some legal reasons for doing that. But also we can use the clock to time how long events take. Maybe we want to time how long it takes Python to go round a particular loop. Maybe how long does it take it to print out the times table? Or maybe we want to time the user doing certain events. We're going to write a program now that times how quickly the computer prints out the 5 times table. Here is my program that does the 5 times table. I've said I'm going to do the 5 times table. I need a count, and here's my little loop, and it's going to loop through that 12 times, increasing the count each time. And inside the loop it's going to work out the result, which is the count times by the table that we're doing, and then it prints out count times table equals result. And when it's done that 12 times, it will finish the loop and finish the program. So let's just check that this works. I'm going to go to run module or F5, as my quick way of doing that. And there we are. It's printed out the 5 times a table. So finished. We now want to make it so that I can time how long this program takes. So before I say I do my 5 times table, I'm going to import time as a clock, and I need to work out what time it is when we start. So I'm going to put start time equals, and I'm going to ask the clock what time it is now, and it's going to store that in that variable start time. When the program's finished, so perhaps just before I print finished, let's get the end time. So end time equals clock dot time. So we know what time it starts the program. We now know what time it finishes. So to see how long it takes, we take away one from the other. So let's just do that. Let's work out the time taken. Let's just do it after the end time. So time taken equals end time, take away the start. Let's make sure we match our capitals. Start time. And that will tell us how many seconds it took. We can then print out the time taken, and let's put in time taken and close that. So I've imported my time as a clock, I've recorded the time, or I've put in a variable the time that it was when we begin the program. We do the 5 times table. When it finishes, we get the end time, and then we work out the time taken by taking from the end time the start time, and that should give us a number of seconds. So let's run this program now. Okay, save my program, and there it is. It took 0.23673653602600098 seconds. So not even a quarter of a second to do that. Now if we want to see how long it would take to do 120 of the 5 times table, we can just run that again. And off it goes, and that time it took 1.5. 031855510635376 seconds to do it. So that's nice and fast. Now the problem with this time here is there are lots of decimal places and probably far too many for us to look at. So a useful thing we can do is round this number up, and we can do that very easily just by putting around our calculation here the word round. So we could say round, and we'll round the result of that calculation. So round uses brackets, so you can see that there, end time, take, start time, and we'll round that up. So let's run that now, and it says that took 2, so 2 seconds. And maybe I want to now add onto this comma, and in quotes let's put seconds, so we know the units. Run module, and that time 2 seconds. So by rounding it up we can bring it to 2 seconds. Let's just put it back down to 12, and let's run the program. And it now says it took 0 seconds. Now we know it didn't take 0 seconds. Earlier it took us 0.25 and lots of numbers of a second. So rounding it rounds it to 0 decimal places. So it basically becomes an integer. What we can do though is say how many decimal places we want. So just by adding a little comma we can say, let's say 2 decimal places. And let's run that program again. And now this time it does say it took 0.25 seconds. So a quarter of a second to do that. And if we change it back to 120, and we run, we can see more accurately that took 1.7 seconds, which gives us more detail to our answer. So you can see here how we can use the time as a clock to record the start time, record the end time, work out the difference to give us the time taken in seconds, and we can round it up to how many decimal places we want. 2 decimal places, or if we leave that blank, to 0 decimal places, like so.